Good day everyone, I am Erica May Suico Katilok from BTLED IA-4A, and for this video we're going to identify and evaluate the working hazard in shielded metal arc and welding. Objectives: identify and evaluate the different hazards in SMAW, shielded metal arc and welding. Appreciate the importance of knowing different types of hazard that can be encountered in SMAW. The first thing we're going to do is to know what is hazard. Hazard is a potential source of harm. Substances, events, or circumstances can constitute hazard when their nature would allow them, even just theoretically, to cause damage to health, life, property, or any other interest or value. It is a situation with a potential for harm in terms of human injury or ill health, damage to property, damage to the environment, or a combination of these. These are the common workplace hazards: the uneven of slippery surface, working at height, moving vehicles or machinery, lifting or manual handling, high pressure or high temperature, electrical installation or equipment, drop objects, gas release, H2S explosion or fire, radiation, chemicals or biological substances, confined space, noise, or other environmental hazards. These are the types of hazards. We have 5: health hazards, physical hazards, chemical hazards, biological hazards, and ergonomic hazards. The first one is the health hazard. Health hazards from welding, cutting, and brazing operations, including exposures to metal fumes and to ultraviolet UV radiation. Safety hazards from this operation includes burns, eye damage, electrical shocks, cuts, and crushed toes and fingers. The second is the physical hazard. Hazard due to the transfer of energy between an object and a worker. Examples are excessive noise, inadequate illumination, extreme temperature, extreme pressure, vibration, radiation, inadequate ventilation, cluttered area, ignorance or carelessness of the workers. The third one is the chemical hazards. These are the hazards areas from inhaling chemical agents in the form of vapor gases, dust, fumes, mist, or by skin contact with these materials. Examples are mist, fine particles of a liquid float in air, gases, substances in gaseous state but one always airborne at room temperature. Vapor results when substances are ground, cut, or crushed by mechanical actions. Fumes, gas is condensed in air, chemically change and becomes fine solid particles which float in air. We have the 4 possible routes of entry of chemical hazards. Inhalation. Breathing in toxic is the most common and dangerous route. So breathing toxic, like inhaling the toxic, it is the most common dangerous route, especially when you're not wearing your respirator or the welding mask. When doing the welding, you can inhale toxic. The second is the ingestion. Toxics enter through the gastrointestinal tract. Ingestions, it is the things that you accidentally eat something that is toxic, that has been touched by a toxic chemicals or other things that is dangerous for us to eat. So that is ingestion. You ate it. Absorption. Toxic pass through skin into the bloodstream. Absorption is when your skin touch the chemical, then it absorbs below and can go to the bloodstream. That is the absorption. That is also very dangerous. When a toxic, you might get burned, hurt. Sometimes you can't even use the skin that has been affected of the toxic chemicals. And the fourth one is the injection. Toxics may be infected into the body. Example for needle. So this is the most direct route of entry, but the least common. This is when you inject something toxic chemicals on your body, and it will go to your bloodstream. Bloodstream, that is dangerous, especially if it is a toxic. That is more dangerous. We have the biological hazards. Hazards caused by living organisms, which includes insects, molds, fungi, viruses, and bacteria contamination. From defect in sanitation and housekeeping procedures, such as in the provision of potable water, removal of industrial waste, and sewage. food handling, and personal cleanliness. So biological hazard is based on the cleanliness of your working space. Yeah. Common health problems from biological hazards are tuberculosis, TB, tetanus, viral hepatitis, HIV or AIDS, diseases caused by viruses, upper respiratory tract infection, hepatitis B infection, acquired immunodeficiency syndrome or AIDS, and rabies. We have the last one, ergonomic hazards. Hazards commonly seen in a workplace which are improperly designed tools or work areas, improper lifting or reaching, poor visual conditions, or repeated motions in an awkward position that may be responsible for fatigue, stress, and strain, and may lead to accidents in the occupational environment. Effects of the ergonomic hazards: low productivity, high rate of errors, material wastage and equipment. We have here the health problem caused by ergonomics: musculoskeletal problem, vascular problem, visual problem, hearing problem, skin problem, and psychological problem. Welding is a hazardous workplace activity which exposes over 500,000 workers to health and safety risk each year in the United States alone. Welding safety measures are designed to protect employees from welding hazard. Welding safety can be implemented by conducting proper training, inspecting welding equipment, and ensuring workers are aware of safety precautions before performing welding activities to minimize the risk of health and safety injuries. There are various risks associated with welding, most of which pose health hazards like exposure to fumes and UV radiation. Welding risk may vary depending on the area where it will be done, so it is recommended that a risk assessment be carried out prior to work. This will help in setting up controls to manage or eliminate the risk. We have the welding operator should always wear an approved respirator unless exposure assessment are below applicable exposure limits. Inspecting welding equipment and electrode holder before proceeding to work. Welders should not touch the metal parts of electrode holder with skin or wet clothing. Yeah, when you're holding a metal parts of the electrode holder, you shouldn't hold it with bare skin or a wet clothing. You should wear your pro welding gloves. Wearing appropriate PPE like welding helmet and goggles to protect workers' eyes and head from hot slugs, spark, intense light, and chemical burns. PPE has lots of materials: the personal protective equipment, welding hat, welding goggles, respirator or welding mask. We have the welding jacket to protect your body from the spark. We have the welding gloves, we have the welding gloves to protect your hand from hot metals. We have the safety shoes to protect your feet from falling heavy objects. We have the earplugs to protect your ears from the loud noises everywhere, especially when you're welding. There's a lot of loud noises there. So you need to wear PPE when you're doing welding. It is also to protect yourself, not just yourself, but your also company, your shop, your people, and your property. It might cause damage. So you need to wear your proper PPE. You need to be equipped to do welding to protect yourself. We have here the welding worker should remain in a work area for at least 30 minutes after finishing welding to ensure there are no smoldering fires. So these are the consequences of doing bad practices. No face protection. It can cause arc eye burn. So when you're not wearing your welding helmet or the thing that covers your face, you might get burned or arc eye. No arm protection. If you're not wearing your welding gloves, you might get burned when you touch the hot metal. Exposed clothes. It can cause fire. Yeah, it can cause fire. When you're just wearing a simple clothes, it might get burned. Exposed solvent, fire, explosion, toxic vapor, bystander exposed to arc can cause arc eye. Fire exit obstructed can cause fire and burns. Fire buckets unsuitable for electrical fires should contain sand, electric shock. Fumes extraction not effective, inhalation of harmful fumes. No work earth. If required, shock, it can shock. Cable damage, stray arc, burns, electric shock. That's why we all need to know the work hazards in shielded metal arc and welding to avoid accident in hazardous areas or workplace. So we need to know the rules and regulations on doing the welding to protect ourselves. Especially, I really encourage you all to wear your PPE, your personal protective equipment when you're welding, because it can really cause accident, especially when you're not with your gloves. Especially with your gloves, you might get burned. Your eyes when you're not wearing your welding helmets and goggles. It might cause accident. And the respirator or the welding mask, you might inhale some toxic chemicals, toxic gases and mist that can enter your body, and that is very dangerous. That is dangerous for your health. The things when you do your things, when you do the welding, you should arrange everything. You should be aware of everything to avoid accident, to avoid tragedy to happen. So I really encourage to wear PPE, personal protective equipment, when you're doing welding. And that's all for my discussion. Thank you for watching. Bye.